tuned into SEC Sunday Night, part of the Chief Sports Network.
Drink and grab a snack. It's SEC Sunday Night. We are live here on the Chief Sports Network, proudly brought to you by Hewitt-Damaduras Law. If you have any injuries in your life, they've got you covered across the state of South Carolina. They're your guys. And if you can't remember Hewitt-Damaduras, then you just know that to go to hdlawsc.com and tell them that Rob and Craig sent you over. Craig, a couple of things we need to just jump off the bat with here tonight. Number one, we have another champion. Right. We have another champion in the SEC. So
Who'd you pick 2 weeks ago?
I picked Arkansas, and that was
okay.
Also,
who did I pick?
The SEC team. I think you picked the Tigers, and they're back on top. To be honest with you, I think it was wishful thinking in terms of my pick, but I have to just let it ride. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. You pick what you pick.
Yep.
So the other thing is, I'm coming to you live from a slightly depressed Myrtle Beach, South Carolina right now, as I am less than a half hour from the campus of Coastal Carolina. And we have some interesting things to talk about. There is a palpable tension in the air here. And if you can hear things in the background, I just want you to live in the South Carolina coastal experience with me tonight, because we're out here on the deck, and you'll hear some cars on the strip moving back and forth, maybe some voices. We want to bring you an experience tonight. So that's what we're going to do on SEC Sunday Night. You have any summer plans, Craig? You going anywhere? I got a couple beach trips planned. This one here at Myrtle Beach, and then we'll head down below Charleston. And maybe make our way to Florida as this motorcycle revs up. You tell me what's going on in your neck of the woods.
Well, I will wrap up athletic directing this week. My goal is to be done on Friday and take the month of July off and come back in August. Then we've got a couple of plans. First and foremost, because I've been athletic directing all year and been away from the house, I have a long list of honeydews to do, cleaning the house, getting things organized. But the family and I are actually going up what we call in Michigan, up north, up to the northern part of the state. It is a beautiful little spot. We're going to go see our family's homestead, which is a nice farm way up in the northern part of the state. And then we are actually going to go visit some friends out on the lake. So looking forward to a great July of relaxing. And also a little weather update for you. It is 98 degrees today in Michigan, and people are losing their minds.
For those of you who have been longtime listeners of Craig and I, you understand that this weather discussion is bigger than small talk. As someone who is in the state of South Carolina and someone who's in the state of Michigan, we all often have very different setups in terms of what's going on outside. There's a lot of days that I'm out there in short sleeves or no shirt at all. In fact, Craig, this is the first time I've had a shirt on in about 5 days.
Doing the Ari Wasserman tops off.
You and our audience should feel quite special right now. All right, let's move on to the news that matters. And we referenced it already. The number one thing, the most exciting piece of news that we have, and the most prevalent thing we should discuss tonight, is that LSU has won the national championship, won the College World Series once again for the 8th time. Absolute dominance.
Mm-hmm.
Is it comparable to what Alabama did in football? In some ways, yes. In other ways, no, because this has been done with multiple head coaches now, 3 head coaches over the course of 30 some odd years to accomplish the feat of winning 8 national titles. But you're really at this point at about one in every 4 years, even though they've had some droughts in there. You're going to see the Tigers come through and win it. So an interesting day here. when we look at the game, the final score is 5-3. Coastal had trouble getting the bats going. You had the game last night, which was a 1-0 game. It was a complete game from Cade Anderson. We need to talk about him in just a few minutes, but you can't get past some of the early excitement in the first inning with two coaches from Coastal Carolina being thrown out. We're going to discuss this during our guest segment in just a moment, but all of this builds up to create this story. But I think that the real story that's going to carry is once again the dominance of the SEC. Because we can talk about what happened in the moment, what happened in the games, but the legacy that will carry through and the story that will stick in the stat books and the history books is that LSU is now an 8-time national champion, and the SEC has won 6 straight College World Series championships.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely impressive. I got to give a shout out to our buddy Lou, who covers LSU for Last Word, because I really think he summed it up best. And he put it this way: LSU's players reflected the composure of Jay Johnson. In the biggest moments, we saw great teams in Arkansas and Coastal fail to make routine plays. There's no shame in that; it happens. But LSU maintained its poise and made a spectacular plays look easy. And I think that's it. LSU did all of the little things. They took care of business, and they just came in and were locked in, and they won the games.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a great matchup, and I think you had really good pitching on both sides. Like last night, we'll get into this a little bit too, but I felt like the performance on Coastal side from a pitching standpoint kind of gets forgotten because Anderson threw a complete game, and he's a potential number 1 pick in the draft, and so he's going to get all the attention. But it was really competitive if you like those types of games, and we kind of had that discussion too. Like, what are you looking for? Today was a little more of what I was looking for.
Yeah, a little 5. You had 5'3". I think you were like 6'4", so it was right in that.
Yeah,
wheelhouse
I don't want it to be. I don't need it to be double digits, but obviously you want to see some runs, and so, but still, just electric performances on both sides. And so, congratulations to LSU. We want to get into that in just a few minutes, a little bit more. But here we have just a couple of minutes before we hit our first break, and we bring in our guest for the night, which is Jake Crain, by the way. So if you're already on here watching and you want to interact with Jake, or you have something for him, we'll keep our eyes over here on the chat box. If you guys have things to say, then feel free to jump in there and comment. But let's talk for a minute about Ross Dellinger's report this past week, because this is news that matters. And he released an article that has several points of change in the college football landscape, primarily focused on formatting in the college football playoff. I think we're going to be really excited when we have players on the field that we can talk about here in just a few weeks, and we're actually getting pretty close to that.
We are.
But for now, we continue to look towards the future and try to figure out what is the formatting going to be. What was my biggest complaint coming out of this past year's selection process? Do you remember what it was?
Well, I think it was Indiana really that good? And maybe do we need Alabama, Ole Miss, or I can't upset Queen over there, the Gamecocks in there in the play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the committee's ability to evaluate strength of record and strength of schedule has proven to be flawed. It's proven to be ineffective. It's proven to be extremely inconsistent.
Yep.
If nothing else, we can point to factual information week after week where it's inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
So they need a metric. And, one of the things that Dellinger points out here is that they're working on developing something. And we've said multiple times.
Google.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And do you feel like that's a good move? You feel like that's the right move? Is it good to bring someone in from the outside? Do you need to know the game? Or is it just analytics?
It's analytics, but like the more I was thinking about this, especially as we were texting throughout the week and I was preparing for the show, the biggest challenge you're going to have in baseball and in basketball, I think the basketball uses those net ratings. Baseball, they're playing 60 some odd games. We only have, if you look at it, 3 games for the Big Ten and 4 games in the SEC that we can kind of look at as larger data points. And I say that because that's how many non-conference games they have. we can look at it in conference. We can look at it's stronger. You and I are not going to argue. We're not going to debate. We know that the SEC is a deeper league. We know it is a much more of a grind. But what the challenging part is how do we evaluate that grind? And it comes down to the Big Ten having those 3 extra games. So you're looking at Ohio State versus Texas. You're looking at Wisconsin versus Alabama. And then the SEC, we have 4, we have those 4 non-conference games. We have the ACC matchups. We have a couple of other prime matchups. But then in the case of Georgia, I think they're playing the Our Sisters of the Poor and, whoever else they're looking at. And I think this is the biggest challenge.
It was Austin P, just in case you were looking for the one. It was Austin P.
Yeah, Austin P and Charlotte and Marshall. So exciting. But I think this is where it's smart to bring in a Google guy, a mathematician guy, an analog guy. Doesn't necessarily have to know the game, but let's figure out what is the historical data that we've used. What are some data points that are used by other leagues, by other conferences? I know lacrosse uses a metric called RPI that looks at your strength of schedule, your opponent's win-loss record, and then your opponent's win-loss record. Much more difficult to kind of break down, and it's kind of geeky, kind of nuanced. Even that has some of its flaws, but to me, it's like trying to bring in, what are those data points? What are those metrics? And then what does the human point come into?
I don't want it to get lost when I have this conversation, because I feel like when I made the statement last year, like, heck, just bring the BCS back and let's use numbers, because I have lost so much faith in people. And obviously I was speaking hyperbole in that way. And sometimes, like when I said, if Texas doesn't have a phenomenal year, then fire Sark. Like, I'm not actually saying that we should do those things, but it does reach that level of frustration. You know what I mean? And so in this case, I agree with you. There needs to be a human element when we're evaluating this 100%, but we've got to increase the presence. We've got to increase the presence of the analytics and the computer metrics that we use in every other sport. It just doesn't make sense that we haven't been able to nail it down. And so, you mentioned Google, and I feel like pulling somebody in is you got to try what you can do. And I think this is a good move, kind of moving forward.
One big thing I did see, like reading Dellinger's article, you've got the Big Ten and the SEC. Basically, they're going to control what the playoff looks like in 2026, and it's either 12, 14, or 16, some version. But what you see as the sticking point is the argument, and this is where the strength of schedule kind of comes in there. And Queen's talking about the schedule, strength of schedule doesn't matter. Well, I think the Big Ten would disagree with you. The Big Ten is talking very much about this narrative of like, hey, we have to have 4 automatic qualifiers. We have to be there. And the reason why they're saying they have to have 4 is I think deep down, Tony Petitti knows maybe we're not good enough to have actually more than 4. Maybe we only have 2 or 3 teams that are good enough. Maybe we don't have 4, where the SEC, in contrast, is saying, give us a 5 plus 11. Let us see how many teams we can pack in there. And so maybe we can go and we can get those 9-3 teams in instead of those 10 teams in. And I think this is the most challenging part. Are these 2 leagues going to come together? Where is the agreement? Where is this idea that they're going to come together? Does the Big Ten say a 5 plus 11 works if the SEC goes to 9? Or do we just stay at 12 and we just kind of keep stasis for another few years?
Yeah, I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head for me, because that is the discussion. And I think that if you look at it, it's the heartbeat of how do people from these different conferences view the discussion. And it's all about that level of confidence, right? There's a lot. Yep. There is some budding confidence in the Big Ten based on the last 2 years, but I think that there's a well-formed foundational confidence in the SEC that is spearheaded by Greg Sankey, and the way that he communicates, as we said before, speaks volumes to that. That he knows that where they stand, he knows the level of power that he has, the level of influence that he's speaking with. And so, to your point, the 5 plus 11 may, in most years, show that the SEC actually is going to be able to get more than 4 teams in, and maybe more than 5 in some years. Hey, let's take a minute here and go ahead and jump to our first break. Let me just remind you that Hewitt Domaduras Law is always here for you. You don't need to know how to pronounce that name. You just need to know how to type in hdlawsc.com. if you have a personal injury, and let our guys know that you want their help. They are personable. They're going to work with you. This is not, the guys that you see on the infomercial. They're not just looking to make a buck. I know them personally, and they care about the people that they're working with, and they want to make a difference in your life. HDLawSC.com. Hewitt Damaduras is here, and they're presenting to you SEC Sunday night on the Chief Sports Network. We'll be right back with our guest, Jake Crain.
When playing sports, you want a coach that will fight for you. At Hewitt Damaduras Law Firm, we've got your back. Whether it's personal injury, insurance disputes, negligence, or wrongful death, our team delivers exceptional legal services that makes meaningful difference in the lives of the individuals and families we work for. Visit hdlawsc.com. hdlawsc.com. Hewitt Damaduras, we're on your team.
Oh, man, the building is on fire.
Emergencies and accidents happen. When you're in the middle of a fire or water event, all you want is for things to return to normal as soon as possible. Resto Pros of the Midlands is with you, guiding you through the process and working with you to get your home or office back in working order. They'll answer your questions, discuss procedures, and can act as your advocate when it comes to processing your insurance claim. Resto Pros Midlands SC.com. Open 24/7 when you need them. Quality that is guaranteed.
At TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, we believe true health and peak performance start with personalized care. Whether you're an athlete recovering from injury or just chasing your next personal best, we're here to guide your journey. With expert coaching, hands-on therapy, and transparent cash-based pricing, you get the care you need without the insurance red tape. One client drove 100 miles just to see us and said it was worth every mile. Contact us at trifitperformance.com or 803-353-5619. TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, where recovery meets results.
OTC is go.
Thank you. Go.
PTC is go.
LPS is go. Houston flight is go.
Pilot go. STM is go.
Safety com is go.
STU is go. LRD is go.
SRO is go.
CDR is go. Launch Director, NTD, our launch team is ready to proceed at this time.
It's SEC Sunday night, presented by Hewitt Damaduras. Visit hdlawsc.com. It's go time.
Welcome back to SEC Sunday Night here live on the Chief Sports Network every Sunday night at 8 p.m. We're excited to be here and excited to bring to you on the TriFit guest line, Jake Crain, host of Crain & Company on the Daily Wire, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Jake, thank you for being back with us, and thank you for being here for the first time on SEC Sunday Night. We're excited to have a discussion tonight as we have some baseball and always sprinkling a little football discussion in there. What's going on?
Oh, man. Well, first off, appreciate y'all having me. I always love coming on here and chopping it up. And a lot going on. Heck, even today, the end of the Travelers was insane. I don't know if you saw Tommy Fleetwood on 18, bogey it, and Keegan Bradley birdies to win it. But getting closer to kickoff. But glad you guys have me on. Yeah,
I know you jumped in after our intro period, but I am live from Myrtle Beach tonight. And so a little bit of a somber vibe. But I did miss the end of the Travelers because I was grabbing the tent and some chairs off of the beach. So thanks for the golf update. We appreciate that. We got to help each other out as much as we can.
Beach. Yeah, I was just in Myrtle Beach about it's the first time we ever took our baby to the beach. It was about 3.5 weeks ago.
What's your favorite Myrtle Beach experience, Jake?
Well, we were in North Myrtle. It's like it was, and it's the first time I ever been there. I will say, I had the best king crab legs that I've ever had at Harold's on the Ocean or Hodos or whatever they call it. But no, it was good, man. I went to school on the coast, so I know all about Gulf Shores and all that. It was nice to go somewhere new, and I loved it. We want to go back next year.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot to do. That's for sure. So if you hear the ambiance in the background, we're just bringing you a South Carolina coastal experience. Even though the champions of the College World Series, not Coastal Carolina, it is the LSU Tigers for the 8th time, 6th in a row for the SEC. Absolute dominance on the baseball front for the conference. But as you look at these two games, Jake, and I know just kind of following along with you and interacting back and forth on X, you're able to see that we share some opinions. Last night you get the 1-0 game, and the story is Cade Anderson throwing the complete game, potential number 1 pick, steals a lot of the spotlight from a great pitching performance on the other side as well.
Yeah.
And I think that deserves some conversation to begin with. A 1-0 game, in your opinion, how does that set the tone? How do we jump into this conversation at 1-0? Is that the type of game that you're looking for, or you prefer something that's going to be a little more high scoring?
Well, look, I'm looking for an exciting game. And, I think one of the, most fascinating things about being able to have a 3-game series at the end of the College World Series, where everybody's back to even, kind of gives you the ability to maybe get some low scoring games, get a high scoring game if you have a rubber match and see it. But I tell you, what both pitchers, whether it's Fluky, whether it's Cade, who is, that guy, when he's on, he's as good as anybody out there. To only give up a combined 1 run with aluminum bats is really insane when you think about it. We look around college baseball, you look in some regionals and you've got these like gorilla ball scores still that are like 16-3, 16-4, but I like a clean game. I want to watch 2 teams playing the right way. Who can ever come through in the clutch moments. It's just like basketball. Look, I enjoy the games that are 100-92, but I also like some of the games that are 71-68. I even enjoy some of the rock fights. Same thing in football. Look, I love watching Lincoln Riley and USC go up and down the field and score a lot of points, but I also like watching, those defensive battles where, you're fighting for every yard and you really just have a team that's trying not to screw it up. So I don't necessarily have one that I like over the other. I just want it to be competitive. And both of these games were uber competitive. I thought, and I've said this for years, that college baseball is the most underrated postseason in all of sports. And you get so many varieties of games and varieties of teams that play a certain way. And then you make it to Omaha and you play in this huge park. And it almost makes you have to play small ball a little bit. It almost makes you have to advance runners, to bunt if you typically don't bunt, having to cover more ground in the outfield, doubles turn into triples, guys go from first to third, from first to home more. So I think it's thrilling, man. And I thought it was a hell of a college baseball season. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. And it's exciting to kind of put a bow on the end of the college sports season as well. And we'll talk about how we turn the tables in just a few minutes. But let's turn to today's matchup, because we talked about the pitching duel yesterday. Mm-hmm. And then the game starts today, and something happened that I feel like deserves some attention. So you get in the first inning, you have a dispute between not just one coach from Coastal Carolina, but a couple of coaches and the umpires over balls and strikes. And from what we're able to see, the quote is something along the lines of, "You missed 3 calls. You missed 3 pitches." And the next thing that you know, we have 2 Chanticleer coaches walking out of the stadium. I didn't even know. I looked away for 1 second. I didn't even know what happened. I look up and see the one guy doing a barrel roll across the field.
And what happened with that? Like, did we ever get confirmation? Was he just taking a dive?
No, oh boy, he tripped over the other ump's foot. He tripped over the home plate umpire's foot. And look, Kevin Schnall said after the game, I shouldn't be held accountable for a grown man's lack of athleticism. You tripped over the own ump, and then you were so embarrassed, you got up and tried to say he bumped you, which means you're suspended now. For if they'd have played a game tomorrow, right, he'd have been suspended for that one too. Now, I will say, I think if Coastal would have won, they would have reviewed it and overturned that, and probably said he could coach in the game. But as far as big picture, I'm a firm believer in 2 things can be true at once. You got to know the circumstance, and you got to be able to read the room and realize you're in an elimination game in the final series of the College World Series. The leash probably needs to be a little bit longer than it usually is. And I don't think the umpire did that. Now, you can't argue balls and strikes, but these coaches argue balls and strikes all the time. He shouldn't have came out of the dugout. That's what got him. So I think there's some blame to go around here. But if I was that umpire, even when he came out and said, "You missed 3 calls," You look right at him and you say, Coach, if you say one more word, I'm going to throw you out of this game. I'm going to throw you out of it. All right. And I know he warned him.
Yeah, he apparently warned him twice.
He warned him twice, but you walk over there.
Yes.
You be a man and you walk over there and say, Coach, look, it's the finals. I've let you have a long leash. You say one more thing and you're out of here. And then at least you give him a chance to then really choose his own fate. I just thought that it was a typical argument that you see with a head coach, and it was a little bit too quick by the umpire. Kevin Schnall wasn't all the way on the right. The umpire isn't the worst guy on the planet, but then you doubled it up by throwing the first base coach out, right? The Schilling. I thought that was just over the top, and the fact that we're having to talk about the umpire after a game like that, the umpire's job is to control the game, to manage the game. He shouldn't be the focal point of the game when it's over. But that's not why Coastal lost. Coastal lost because LSU's pitching and defense was elite. That's why.
That's true. That wasn't the reason they lost. But like you look at it, they came in 26 game winning streak. They lose 1-0 yesterday, and then all of a sudden now you're down your head coach, and now you're down your first base coach. I'm not even sure why the first base coach got thrown out, but like. What that does is it puts them behind the 8 ball. Yes, Coastal scored that first run in the bottom of the second inning to kind of go up 1-0, but I felt like it was a matter of time before LSU just kind of poured on. And I almost kind of felt like it was it changed the conversation from when is LSU going to win, not if LSU is going to win game 2. And that is the crappy part because of Coastal's great season, and it doesn't take anything away from LSU because LSU came out and they did what they were supposed to do. But that is a really, I mean, I'm going to be honest. That game was a little too big for that ump. I mean, it just was not. It was not the right call. You've got to have that conversation. You've got to be able to talk to him face to face, just like you said, Jake. And you got to let him let go. And then you say, okay, there's your.
So, what are our thoughts on holding them accountable in terms of, and I saw that JB from a show on our network as well said earlier on X they should have to sit in front of people and answer questions.
Bro, I've been saying this for 5 years or 4 years, however long I've been in sports media. It's insane to me. You make the players do press conferences, you make the coaches do press conferences, you make the ADs do press conferences, and the group that has the most control of the game in reality outside of the players, right? The officials never have to do press conferences. Never at all. Or if they screw up, you send out a press release. It's like, we screwed up. Like, we're sorry. Support, God bless our troops. We're out. Like that. It just, I'm to the point where I don't understand why we don't do that. Now, that's not to say that they're evil or they're the worst. It's not an easy job. I do get a little bit fed up with how hard they make officiating seem like it's the hardest job in the world. Like you're a single mother in a bad economy or you're a coal miner. Like it's not to that level. But I've been saying with football, with any major sport, I think the officials or a representative have a communications person. I don't care if you do it like a White House briefing. Just have somebody stand up there and have to answer questions and have some accountability for it. I've been saying that forever. I think he's 100% right.
Does that look like, though, when we have
I think I may have lost Craig for a minute. Maybe that's me.
Oh. Jake, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So does that happen? So we have the officials go and we have the officials chat. Like, does that become like after the selection committee kind of comes together and says, we're trying to explain something, and it just makes matters worse. Of why are we putting Alabama here? Why are we putting Ole Miss here, South Carolina here? Does it make it worse by putting the officials on the mic? I mean, I agree with you. I'd like to hear from them, but I almost wonder. Like, I feel like review has made their jobs more difficult because they're constantly second guessing themselves, because it's like, do I make this call or do I not make this call? And then, I've got the review now with me. I wonder about the impact of having that. Like, it's not that I disagree. I just wonder, does it muddy it? What does it muddy it more?
Yeah, look, it's not going to fix anybody's hurt feelings if their team lost the game because of what they thought was a bad call. But I don't think adding transparency is ever a bad thing. Now, look, could they sit up there and it just be, robot talking and them really not going into detail? I don't know how many guys would sit up there and be like, man, I just missed it.
Yep.
Like I missed it. If I could go back, I don't know if they'd say that, but just the fact that everybody else has to go up there who's got their butts on the line, the players and the coaches have to go up there and do it. You should have to do it too. And I'm fine if it's just postseason. I'm not saying you have to do that after every Major League Baseball game in a regular season that's got 8,000 games. Maybe it's just a postseason thing. Conference championship, conference tournament, then the true postseason in the sports. Just do it then. And it doesn't have to be an hour long. I just think adding transparency in that element it wouldn't make it worse. It's not going to fix it, but I think it's more even across the board.
Yep, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. I think that it's fair. And if we want to do things that just make sense, I think that one is there's just too much common sense that exists there to
hang on. When do we do that in college football though? Like, hey, wait, there's common sense. Wait, when are we choosing?
Yeah, let's back away from that. Hey, look.
Yeah, I'm with you.
One more thing about baseball, and then we're gonna look at college football for just a minute. Jake, and you're from this southeastern belt of SEC world and life. Mm-hmm. Where does today, a day where there's a 6th straight SEC champion in the college baseball world, how does baseball match up against the rest of the sports world? Because let's be honest, it's a football dominated territory.
Oh, for sure.
But
you're talking about college sports?
Let's talk about let's just focus on college sports. How much does college baseball in the SEC mean to this region, and then how much could it mean if it was to spread outside of that area?
Well, I think the 6 straight national championships, shows you how much it means. I mean, again, we can talk about the weather. It's obviously way more conducive to play college baseball in the South, right? But it's something that the SEC has been really, really good at for a long time. And the SEC thought it was sexy before it really became sexy. And being able to bet on it now is huge. So I think that's really elevated the sport as well, now that you can wager on it. That was a big decision for them. I would say it's 3. I would still say it's football 1. I would say it's college basketball 2, because I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but the SEC is just running shop in college basketball right now, and it's been on the come up for a while, and it's huge, and it's only getting bigger. And then baseball would be 3 for me. And what I'm interested to see is the juxtaposition of where college baseball is and then college softball. I think college softball, especially in the SEC, is the best women's sport they got going out there. I mean, I actually watch that and really, really, really enjoy it. It's a really fun sport to watch. Now, as far as what's the ceiling for it? The ceiling is obviously not as big as college football, because college football is played everywhere and it's big pretty much everywhere in the United States. College basketball is big pretty much everywhere in the United States. And when college baseball is played, obviously the weather is very, very important as well. I just don't know if it's going to spread up north enough to be able to reach the other two. I don't think it ever will, but it has grown immensely. And there's a lot. I can just see it starting to catch fire, and I'm hoping it does spread, but I think there is a cap to it.
Are the LSU fans? Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think the one area where you saw baseball really go, I want to say it was at some point last week. ESPN had 1 million plus viewers for one of the games on the ratings, and to me, you're getting 1 million viewers. That's talking about it. You look at as Jake pointed out, college softball. College softball is also dominating. Someone who covers, college lacrosse, we're not getting that. And a lot of times we are on ESPN Plus for a lot of those games. College softball, college baseball is dominating ESPN2, ESPNU, because those are guaranteed ratings. And that is totally shrinking in a juxtaposition to what college lacrosse looks like.
Yeah, which lacrosse, I mean, I've had a couple buddies that played. They didn't offer it at my high school, but I enjoy watching Johns Hopkins and Syracuse and North Carolina and those guys. Look, if you're throwing
don't get them fired up, Jake. Don't get them fired up, Jake. We'll be here all night.
Something I'm going to watch, and you can hit each other with the stick. I mean, I'm not a connoisseur by any stretch of the imagination, but it looks fun.
Is it fun, Craig?
We'll get you started, Jake. We'll get you down for a game, and we'll get you all situated. We'll be good to go.
All right, I'm there.
He's outside of Detroit though, so pack your coat. All right, so let's turn
some other stuff.
Yeah, let's turn the page to college football here for just a minute. So Craig and I have been having this discussion this week about the college football farming process, we'll call it, where we saw these ideas on X, and I don't remember exactly who it was that posed them, but I'll just not take credit for them. But the idea is, what would happen if you took some non-flagship schools that are close to bigger flagship universities and did private deals with them to make it easier to move a player from that school into your school. And the example that was given was like the University of North Carolina and then like a UNC Wilmington type of deal. Then we took the discussion further to say, what if something like the Big 12 cuts a deal with the Mountain West, where the transfer barriers are easier, where you're not going to have as much red tape coming from one place to another, and they basically set up this minor league structure to make it more conducive. You know how coaches used to send guys to JUCO, but the idea was, hey, we're going to come back around and get you when you get into the right spot. And you just kind of had this handshake agreement with these JUCO coaches to know that, like, hey, people are going to come recruit him if he does what we think he's going to do, but we've already got a leg up. This would take it a step further, where there would be some contractuality between the two parties to say, hey, we're sending guys here for developmental purposes. Can you see us going there? Is there a world where we're sliding into that path? I see you smirking. Go ahead and give it to us.
I'm just like, so you're basically turning like UNC Wilmington into a JUCO. That's really what you're doing. Listen, it's a fun like think tank idea. You know, like these guys sit around these think tanks and come up with like all these ideas and what happens if this happens. You know, we would do this. Here's what I want. You know, my father had a saying. He's like, son, once you get past 35, all you really are gonna want is cold beer and hot food. Just keep it simple, right? Keep it simple. Why don't we just have rules for everybody that make sense and work? Like, I don't think we have to go and branch off and have these side deals. Why don't we fix the transfer portal windows on the calendar, which I actually think they're going to do? And then why don't we have, whether it's these NIL contracts, consequences for both sides, where if the player does not live up to that commitment or goes somewhere, just like with my job, I'm guessing just like with y'all's job, there is a consequence for not living up to your end of the bargain, whether that be financial or whatever. Where I'm worried about where we're going, and I like that the House settlement, we have a couple rules now, but it still doesn't put an end because there's no collective bargaining agreement to the litigation that's going to happen. Like, they're still going to sue. They're still going to sue. But now moving forward, what I want with this breakaway Super League that we're going to go to, I don't know how many teams it's going to be, 40 or 50. Why don't we just have a piece of paper, just like when you sign your NLI, that says if you want to play at this place, at LSU, for example, and LSU is a member of this Super League, your NLI, when you sign it, is saying you agreed to adhere to all the rules of this Super League, or there is a consequence. Like, I feel like, and it was all screwed up when they released NIL and the transfer portal and all this other stuff without any rules. And then they're shocked that it's just nobody, it's just the Wild West. Like, it's the most least surprising thing of all time. It's like Dr. Frankenstein let the monster out in the village, and then he's surprised when the monster's ripping their legs and arms off and beating them to death right next to the pub. So I want one set of rules for everybody. That's what I want. And I want it buttoned up, and I want it concrete. And I want to say, if you do an NIL deal and you sign this contract, you have to be here at least 2 years. You leave before that or whatever, take another deal, you've got to pay back this amount.
Jake,
and it prepares people for the real world.
Jake, I'm sorry, my friend. Who was the starting pitcher for LSU today? Anthony Ianson, right? Where did he go to school last year?
God.
University of California, San Diego.
God, that's a great
campus. He's from California.
Mm-hmm.
I love the spirit of that you bring, but I'm going to be honest. LSU wants the farm system. Alabama wants the farm system. Auburn wants the farm system. Georgia wants the farm system. Let these kids go play over there. If you're good enough, you're going to be the 5-star. You're going to come play in the Super League. It's called the SEC.
So are you saying, though, you don't sign with Georgia? Like, they're like, all right, no, you just go over here and we'll pay for your cafeteria.
Let the free market.
food.
No, I'm saying let the free market play. Let them go. Let them go play there. Don't have UNC Wilmington automatically be the JUCO. Let it just play out exactly the way it is. You know what, if they're a 5-star or they're a 4-star, you look at who was Miami's quarterback? Why am I so suddenly blanking on the used quarterback?
Say that again.
Year. Who was Miami?
Would be Cam Ward.
Cam Ward.
Mm-hmm.
Cam Ward worked his way all the way up, right? Started at Houston Baptist, went to Washington State, ended at Miami. In your scenario, Cam Ward is forever locked out of the Super League.
No. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is once you decide to go to that school with the Super League. So like if Cam Ward was an incarnate word, right? Which is where he started.
Right.
And then Washington State was a part of the Super League. When Cam Ward says, you know what, I want to transfer from incarnate word, which was not in the Super League, to Washington State, that in this scenario would be in the Super League, then he has to sign that, just like he signs the scholarship at Washington State. He signs that in there. So the problem would then become, how much money are you having to pay UNC Wilmington to keep that afloat, to just go steal their players? I don't know if you could replicate that, even if you're at a big school, to 3 to 4 different places. And if it's like, at least with JUCOs, if I want to go get a guy from the KJCC, I can. If I want to go get a guy from the Mississippi JUCO colleges, I can. Limiting that, to me, limits where the players can go too, right? So you'd be telling the player.
Yeah, it does.
So I think we're arguing the same thing. I just don't think we have the contractual agreements below. Like, to me, I would rather just keep it as it is now with the transfer window, because at the end of the day, the biggest
one transfer window, right? Can we agree on that?
No, I'll go 2, because you got to right size your roster in the spring.
I know I'm poking because I knew what you were going to say.
But the biggest part too is coaches also have to protect their rear ends, because even if I lock you in for 2 years, Brock Vandegrift was a 5-star. He almost beat out Georgia to be beat out Carson Beck to be the number 1 quarterback. He then goes to Kentucky and he lays an egg, and then he retires. You want to be able to get that out so that you can be able to cover yourself against the bus. So to me, I think you just kind of leave it as it is. I don't see it locking it in, because I think the coaches want the flexibility. The coaches will say, and they'll complain, just like you have Wisconsin now suing Miami for tampering. But here's the deal: that's how you're going to get your players.
Everybody tampers, tampering. You'll never stop that.
I just like let it play out. Let the market kind of play out. Let these guys kind of come and go. And if they do, more often than not, if you're good enough as a coach, good enough as a program, it'll all take care of itself.
So again, I'm trying to make sure that I understand what you're saying. So you're saying if Kirby Smart at Georgia said, "Hey, Brock Vandegrift, we're basically demoting you. We're gonna send you
demote him
to UNC." Well, what I'm saying is, then that coach gets to choose where the player goes.
No. I'm saying I don't want Rob's. I'm contractually obligated to send Georgia players to Georgia State or Georgia Southern. I'm just saying, hey,
For the record, that's not Rob's plan. That was just me throwing out an idea that we discussed.
Sounds better when I say Rob's plan, by the way.
Was not Rob's plan.
Well, Craig, so let me ask you this. So, we can't talk about that without factoring in NIL.
Yep.
So now that I pay the players and I sign you and I say, "Hey, Arch Manning, I'm Steve Sarkisian. I'm signing you, and there's an NIL deal that's going to be in this. Are we, as a school, are going to pay you this amount of money to come here?" Yep. You don't think there should be a contract that sticks the player to the school or the school to the player?
It's like any other contract. There should be there should be a buyout. There should be something else. I know that, we talked to Tony Siragusa a couple of weeks ago, and they talked about that 12th payment for December comes in January instead of December, to make sure that you played in the bowl game, to make sure you've been on the roster. If I'm Arch Manning, I've got my contract. I'm getting paid as long as I'm on Texas's roster. If I leave, I no longer get that money. I no longer get that NIL money.
No, but then me and you agree. You agree.
Yep.
So that's all.
We just come at it a different way. That's all.
Yeah. I just want accountability on both, Because I think it's the worst thing to teach our young people that it's like, oh, yeah, you signed this contract, but, you don't have to live up to it. Then all of a sudden, Brock Vandagriff doesn't play football anymore. And I'm not saying he does this. And he goes and works as an accountant and then doesn't understand why the company just fired him because the contract he signed said he had to work 5 days a week and he showed up 3. Like, so we agree in that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Jake, we told you 20 minutes. I kept you for 30. Let me get you out of here with one last question. When we come back from the break, we're going to get into the Heisman discussion just a little bit. Before we get you out of here, is there somebody that you're looking at? Give me your surefire bet and your dark horse on the spot.
I'll say, I'll tell you my dark horse right now is Johnny Mateer at Oklahoma. Boy's a stud, and his OC's coming with him. I would say maybe the most surefire. God, I like Nuss at LSU. Speaking of LSU. Yeah, you're going Arch, Craig? Of course you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course you are.
Of course he is.
That's hilarious. We'll see. I hope he lives. He's not going to live up all the way to the hype because it's impossible, but I hope he plays well. I hope him and Julian Sayin play well.
Yep, no doubt. Definitely. Thanks again, Jake Crain.
Thanks, Jake. I really appreciate it,
you bring the heat every time. We really appreciate it. Jake Crain of Crain & Company on the Daily Wire, 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. Make sure that you guys are following along and listen to what he has to say, because it is that level of passion and energy every single time. And that's what we love, because ultimately we love the game. We love sports and we want to see it be better. And so we appreciate you coming on. Thanks for being here tonight.
Appreciate it, guys. I always say I only know 4 things and they all start with F. Y'all be good.
All right, have a great night. We'll see you later. That is Jake Crain on the TriFit Performance guest line. We're going to get another break here. Remember that TriFit is here to help you not only be healing if you have an injury, because and you also need to call HD Law if you do that, but TriFit is here to improve performance. It is TriFit physical therapy and performance. And if we know anything as people, it's not just about sitting in the life that we've built. It is about growth and performing at another level at all times. And so if you want to physically perform better, make sure that you follow on TriFitPerformance.com. Call Mitch. Go on their website. Check them out. Make sure that you make an appointment right there in Lexington, South Carolina. This is SEC Sunday Night on the Chief Sports Network, and we will be right back.
At TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, we believe true health and peak performance start with personalized care. Whether you're an athlete recovering from injury or just chasing your next personal best, we're here to guide your journey. With expert coaching, hands-on therapy, and transparent cash-based pricing, you get the care you need without the insurance red tape. One client drove 100 miles just to see us and said it was worth every mile. Contact us at trifitperformance.com or 803-353-5619. TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, where recovery meets results.
When playing sports, you want a coach that will fight for you. At Hewitt Diamaduros Law Firm, we've got your back. Whether it's personal injury, insurance disputes, negligence, or wrongful death, our team delivers exceptional legal services that makes meaningful difference in the lives of the individuals and families we work for. Visit hdlawsc.com. hdlawsc.com. Hewitt Diamaduros, we're on your team. This is SEC Sunday Night on the Chief Sports Network.
Sunday Night, live every Sunday at 8 p.m. on the Chief Sports Network. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks again to Jake Crain for being here on the TriFit Performance guest line. Great stuff from Jake as we talk about the College World Series. LSU, 8 times now national champion, 6 straight for the SEC. And we talked a little bit of college football as well, as we love that sport more than anything, if we're being quite honest with you. And we know that you love it as well. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, for the last word here on SEC Sunday Night. And Craig had an article this week to look at the Heisman race. We just talked to Jake about it. He mentioned John Mateers as dark horse. If you have not been around Craig and I for long, then I will spoil that one for you. Neither one of us is looking at John Mateer as a Heisman candidate because we think that Oklahoma is going to be somewhere around 500. I think I have them at 5-7. Not a lot of faith. What do you have? What's on the spreadsheet for you, Craig? Do you remember?
John Mateer is at number 8 he's got the eighth best. So he did make the top 10.
Yeah, there's a lot of other hype. There's a lot of other people that believe in it and are pushing for it. So this could be the biggest I was wrong preview of all time. And so we may revisit this when he's walking across the stage in New York and we get to say I was wrong, but I just don't see it. It's not really a shot at him. I just don't know from level of competition that I believe it's just going to translate that quickly. This is the SEC where it just means more. This is not Washington State's Mountain West schedule they played last year.
He's a hell of a dual threat guy. But here's the thing. Like, he's going to have to be running for his life because who's playing offensive line for the Oklahoma?
We still don't have answered.
No.
And all right, talk to us. Talk to us because you had the article this week, and so you've done more research than me. So you talked about Mateers at 8.
Yep.
You want to give us a rundown and give us a couple thoughts here on last word? I would love to give my picks, but let's hear you. Let's hear what you have to say first. As the sun is setting on our time here on the show, and also on me in the beautiful Grand Strand, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Go ahead.
Hey, it looks good, buddy. You don't have the purple and gold like I do in the sky behind us.
It's mood lighting, Craig. It's called mood lighting. Go ahead.
So if you look at, I looked at the top 10 names out there, and no shock, Big Ten and SEC take 9 of the 10 spots. We have 5 quarterbacks from the SEC. We have Arch Manning, your guy, Garrett Nussmeier are the top 2. And then we have, DJ Lagway. We've talked about him a time or two, coming in at number 7. John Mateer at 8. The $8 million man, Lenora Sellers, coming in at 9. So I thought that was pretty impressive. And then you had 4 Big Ten guys. You had Julian Sayin, and you also had Jeremiah Smith from the Ohio State University. So I thought that was interesting that 2 of the 4 players came from Ohio State.
Interesting and not shocking.
Not surprising. But number 5 confused me. Drew Aller, Pennsylvania State University, number 5. And, I also saw something that irritated me yesterday. Apparently, he's the highest rated quarterback in EA 2025. Please, Rob, tell me what I'm missing with Drew Aller. And I know I'm not.
First of all, let me say welcome to Gomaha, 23, who just popped in with some trophies over there in the chat. We love to see it. We love to see it. Shout out to LSU and all they've been able to do this weekend.
Love it.
Yeah. Drew Aller. So first of all, Big Game James, who Craig is a huge fan of.
Mid-game James.
It has just not been able to get it done, and Drew Aller's kind of tied to that, right? I think Drew Aller has a lot of talent. If I'm being honest with you, I think the NFL is really going to like him just from a size standpoint because they think they can develop anything in that league. Mm-hmm. But when you look at what it takes to win the Heisman, is you're going to have moments, and until we see Penn State have these moments, mm-hmm. then I can't really be a believer. It's one of those things that you're going to have to see. The moments, I think, this year for me, as they do a lot of years, live in the SEC. Yep. But not only do they live in the SEC, they live. I have to say it, and this is gonna. Thank you so much to everybody who was here to watch the show tonight. And I know that many of you, as I do, reside in the state of South Carolina and possibly wear the shade of garnet. However, Cade Klubnik's numbers are going to be good. They're going to be really good, okay, because he's experienced. He has a phenomenal wide receiver core around him, and the ACC defenses that he's going to face are not going to be they're not going to be what guys in the SEC are going to face every week. I love Nuss. I think he's a great pick for a Heisman Trophy winner. I love Lenoris. I think there's a lot of potential with South Carolina's schedule for those types of moments. In fact, you have a matchup at the end of the year in Williams-Brice between South Carolina and Clemson that's going to have Cade Klubnik and Lenora Sellers against each other. Is it possible that one of them finds a Heisman moment in that game? But I just think that for Cade Klubnik, he's going to have stats that are going to keep him in the conversation. And so if he can find a moment late in the year, then it might happen for him. But then again, that could happen with Garrett Nussmeier as well, with the weapons that he has around him. The grind is bigger, but this goes right back to the strength of schedule discussion. Can the Heisman voters factor in that if you are playing tougher defenses, you might be a 9-3, 10-2 team right on the edge of the playoff, but you have the Heisman Trophy winner on your team.
And right there, so Nuss is at 2, and then Cade is at 3. And looking at Cade's numbers, Cade, I totally agree with you. Cade is impressive. But here's the thing. Is he too safe? He's completed 70% of his passes. Impressive. And he's thrown 86 touchdowns, but only 7 interceptions. To me, that tells me that Klubnik is more safe than a gambler. And Clemson, and that may work very well in the ACC, even though I think they had like 3 losses last year, heading into the college football playoff. I'm not sure. I'm not a Clemson fan. I'll leave that to you, my friend.
Yeah, but, not quite here either.
But what Cade has to do is he has to step up. You look at a couple years ago in Georgia, he did not step up. He didn't play that great even against Texas last year. So to me, it's going to be, can you maybe take, instead of those high percentage throws, can you take a few chances downfield? You have the receiving core now to do it. You have some nice running backs there. Are you able to kind of exploit that? And then for Nuss, I think, that's I almost put him in the same boat. Nuss had, again, really nice year, 29 touchdowns. The problem with Nuss was that, oh, Casey's in the chat. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, what's up, Casey? Why are you yawning? We're talking about Cade. Casey is our friend and guest that appeared from the airport, and also a Clemson fan. Continue, Craig, about Garrett Nussmeier and why he's going to win the Heisman.
12 interceptions. Too many interceptions. He's got to be single-digit interceptions.
All right, let me ask. Go ahead.
No, and he has to play at a high level. Nuss has not shown up in those biggest games. Whether, if you look at like the Alabama game, for example, he's got to win the Alabama game. He's got to win something. He's got to do something to elevate his game so that we can have another LSU quarterback win a Heisman, if that's going to happen.
What about DJ Lagway? We got to talk about this, and we're running out of time. We're going to get out of here in just a minute. But you have all these the SEC quarterbacks that are in this discussion. You talked about Nuss. You talked about Arch. We talked about Sellers. We talked about John Mateer. But right here in the same discussion, we have DJ Lagway. Lagway has an impressive skill set. Here's the question for me when it comes to Florida. I think that he does. And I think that he's a leader. And we've had this discussion multiple times of what happened at Florida last year. I thought Florida, even though on the spreadsheet in 2024, I was 75% correct in picking games, and we picked them in April. I picked Florida to go 2-10. They were one of my biggest I was wrong moments of the year. Because I thought that they would quit. And the reason they didn't quit was because of DJ Lagway. Some people try to give this credit to Billy Napier because he rallied the troops and he melded everything together. I believe that there was belief in the locker room that we have a guy under center who could come out here and win games for us if he can stay healthy, which is, by the way, still a question mark for us in the middle of the summer. We're going to find out real quick when fall camp gets here, and we're able to get some beat writers in there to see what's happening. How many snaps is he taking? What is he like throwing the ball? Is he really healthy? But when I look at DJ Lagway, I think he has something intangible that doesn't get talked about. And so if I have to pick a dark horse, even though I picked Florida to go 7-5 this year, if I'm wrong about that and they make a miraculous run to even get up 2 games over that, let's say they're 9-3 and they're on the edge of the playoff, DJ Lagway is out of his mind if that's what's happening. And
6-1 as a starter, 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Only threw for about 1,600 yards.
It's a limited sample size, and he's a freshman. We know that the biggest jump is going to come from his freshman to sophomore years, stereotypically. And so I'm not saying that I believe in it, and that I'm putting my money on it. I'm just saying, if you wanted to, if we're looking for a dark horse type of guy, that's kind of where my money is. It's not John Mateer, I can tell you that.
Dark horse for me is
ahead.
have been a dog, Caleb Downs, because I think he's going to be a stud for
That would be
Ohio
tough.
State's defense, and I think he's going to get a little play wide receiver. So you could see a Travis Hunter-esque performance coming from Mr. Downs in Columbus.
All right, the only two players that we just mentioned that are
the top
not
10, by the way,
only two players we just mentioned that are not quarterbacks were Ohio State players, and that was Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. Just saying, the safest bet that you have in the Heisman discussion is that it's going to be a quarterback. All right, ladies and gents, this has been SEC Sunday Night. Thank you to my partner and my friend, Craig McMichael. Shout out to Jake Crain again for being here with us. And also, as always, much love to the Mad Dog, Phil Mullinex, who is behind the scenes running the show for us, been here from all of this time, the first month of life on SEC Sunday Night. We hope that you are downloading the Chief Sports app. Sorry, I'm very distracted by Casey in the chat box. Casey, I'm in Myrtle Beach. You should have been here from the beginning of the show, and then you wouldn't have to tell me that I'm in Ripley's. Make sure you download the Chief Sports app so that you get all of this information faster. It's archived for you there. There's lots of local stuff that's available. You're going to get access to our sponsors or to our partners so that you can connect with them. And so make sure that you're doing that, and join us again next week. We will be back next week, and we'll continue this discussion as we get through the dog days of summer and look towards the football season. This has been SEC Sunday Night on the Chief Sports Network. We'll see you next time.
This is SEC Sunday Night, part of the Chief Sports Network.